What's going on, Reefers? Blaine here. In today's video, we normally go through our installation videos where you get to see the tank get set up, but we ultimately don't get to show off the system up and running with fish and corals. Today, we're completely changing that, and this has been a video years in the making. Let's dive in. All the way back in December of 2023, this dream system started to come alive. But there was a lot of prep work that needed to be done even before we could arrive on site. Once the tank landed here at TSA, we could finally get to work. Another beautiful custom system by our in-house tank builder, Derek. The tank itself was not easily moved around, so we needed to make sure we had all hands on deck for this system. The goal for the morning was to get the rock overflow out of the back of Kevin's truck and into the system itself before we could make our way on site. Getting the tank butted up to the back of Kevin's tailgate, you can see it in the looks of everyone here that this was not going to be easy. Foam was prepped and laid all around the tank to make sure the edges and anywhere else we could fit it before trying to attempt to get this rockwork inside. As you can see, these are some hefty pieces of rockwork, and they are cut to fit exactly against the overflow. With Gene and Kevin in the bed of the truck, we had Corey climb inside the tank to be on the receiving end for the pieces. You heard that correct, there are multiple pieces to this scape, and we're talking about the overflow section as of right now. At last, after talking quite a bit and planning out things, we had to go ahead and get liftoff started, and the first piece of the scape was making its way into the tank. Watching the team work together always impresses me, and their ability to work in some tight locations always deserves a like on the video. With the first piece down into the tank, there's at least a little breath that we can take before we start carrying on moving forward. I mentioned how this scape was fitting directly onto the overflow, and you can see that here in this shot where the rockwork is cut exactly to fit against the overflow. For the time being, before we get the second piece on, we decided to leave it off of the overflow to make things easier when settling in the top section. The top section was a lot easier to work with and much smaller in size. Even with that being said though, it's still a risk moving any kind of rocks around expensive glass. The idea was to get the top section onto a piece of plywood and then work it down along the tank to make it as easy as possible when getting it connected to the base section. Once the piece was shifted over, it was time to get them connected, and the top portion fit like a glove. A true seamless look added to this custom system to completely hide the overflow. Once the rock was inside the tank, Kevin could really get to work laying the piping inside the rockwork and getting the two sections locked into place. The next day, we got to the shop bright and early, and before I even got there to film, they had already loaded up and strapped down the stand. That's usually the easy part though, where it comes to getting the tank in is a whole different beast. Seeing the rockwork covering the overflow is honestly breathtaking and really gives the tank a whole new feel. I also love how the return nozzles are hidden into the rockwork and will even be covered with more smaller sections of rubble. Overall, this section of the tank is going to provide some really cool hiding spots and allow for some awesome coral growth on all levels of the reef tank. Once we got on site, the stand was the first thing to make its way inside. What was really crazy about this specific install was the fact that the house was still under construction and fairly bare bones. You can see in the clips here, we even had the construction plans still out and the pool was only a thought. A Poseidon's Creation sump was used for this build yet again, as it's one of our trusted companies to provide spectacular filtration for below our custom tanks. With the sump out, we could get the stand into place and begin to really visualize what was about to unfold here. A section of the wall was left completely empty so that we could split the walk-in corridor and the kitchen with this custom tank. Derek got to work measuring things out and ensuring all was right for the stand and tank, and planning out what was needed for the cabinetry up above. Next on our list to get inside was the tank itself. In reality, the fact that this house was bare bone really played into our favor, not having to move furniture or get personal belongings out of the way to easily move this system throughout the home. Every time we get to moving a tank, you always hold your breath a little bit. I've been doing this now with TSA for just over 2 years, but it always gets my heart pumping super fast. And whenever it's time to get the tank inside, I tend to get a little excited. Luckily, we were able to back the box truck directly to the garage where we could lower the lifting gate and easily get the big glass box out of the truck. Now, if you were wondering whether or not this was it for the Scape, we had the remaining pieces inside the bed of Kevin's truck, which needed to make their way inside too before the tank would be lifted into place. Kevin really is a guru of rock structures, and whenever I see a new piece of his work, I'm blown away with what he comes up with in the next one. I have said this time and time again, but if you're looking for custom rock structures from us here at Top Shelf Aquatics, be sure to head over to the website. The other main part of the Scape was also not a light structure and took several sets of hands to get it lifted inside. Moving these pieces around can be cumbersome, but it takes delicate movements and strength together to make it happen. Once it had made its way inside, we could set it down and await for it to make its way into the tank. Now, the best part was saved for last, getting the tank up the garage stairs ramp and inside. A super tight fit, but it fit just nice through the doorway. Once through the garage, the team could easily maneuver it into the big home. Derek drilled some holes for water and electrical to keep things as clean as possible for the installation. Kevin made his way inside the tank to ready himself for the Scape. Alex checked to make sure all was level and we were ready to get this tank up top. Because of the sheer size of the system, we thought it would be easier due to the tight fit to get the tank onto the stand before making its move into the final spot. We also moved the sump back underneath before we got everything up top. Derek decided to swap in to be the receiver of the Scape, and Kevin and Dyko got the last piece of the Scape up onto a piece of plywood and then slowly but surely down into the tank. With long, outstretched arms on this specific Scape, we had to be careful of the glass to get this thing in safely. After the piece was put in, Kevin hopped back into the tank to take the ride up top to the stand to help make sure the Scape didn't fall onto any side glass panels. With Kevin inside, it goes to show how truly big this tank really is, and Kevin is not a small person in the slightest. Derek and Gene began shifting the tank off the lifts and into place, and all while that was going down, Kevin was holding it down inside the tank. Once that was done, Kevin began adding the finishing touches to the Scape, adding things here and adding things there to make the rockwork work seamlessly. Now we are flashing forward to January of 2024. All right, Reefers, it's been quite some time since we've been back at this install. Originally, you all saw here on the video a little early on, we were setting up this tank. This entire home was pretty much bare bones. So really cool to kind of step in and see how the construction's been going. Being able to see the tank now, this tank is unbelievable. We're really excited to finally get the cycle up and rolling, and hopefully we can get some fish in here in February. So we're really excited to see it. When it comes to the size of the tank, we have a 575-gallon display system, and then down below in the sump we have a 100-gallon sump, making it almost a 700-gallon tank in total. It's 48 inches tall. This is a super deep system, but I think that's going to be really interesting and create quite the dynamic Scape. As you can see, the Scape is crazy. This is something you guys were able to see as Kevin constructed that on site at Top Shelf Aquatics. We were able to bring it out here, and now we've got this system up and rolling and we've got a cycle going. We're really excited to be able to see corals, fish, and all kinds of things inside of the system, but we wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on in the tank, talk about some of the equipment too. We've got roller mats down below, we've got Bashy reactors, we've got skimmers, we've got everything getting rolling. What I'm really excited about though is the fact that we're going to be doing the maintenance on this tank. The fact that we're doing the maintenance on this tank is I can be able to come back and see this tank in about 6 months and get an update here on the channel. So it's not gonna be goodbye after we finish here today with this video. We're gonna be able to come back and see this tank 6 months, a year down the line, and be able to see it mature and develop. Out in the garage, they also have set up an awesome water mixing station. It's going to be essential with such a big tank that you have a nice water system all set up when it comes to the ATO mixing salt water. So they've got 200-gallon vats out in the garage. We've got a nice RODI system set up. We've got some doses going on as well too, so we can start getting everything set up when it comes to moving the fresh water into the ATO down here, and maybe later on down the line, implementing some automatic water changes too. Just this past Saturday, we ended up adding the water in, and just today too, we added in some bacteria and ammonia to really kickstart that cycle. It's gonna be awesome to finally see this tank up and rolling, but we wanna make sure and give it the proper time. This is a really big tank, so we wanna make sure it matures a little bit before we start adding in any livestock.
All right, Reefers, we have seen the entire process of getting this tank to where it is today, from the start of getting it into a bare bone home to now where it's sitting at, where we're adding fish, we're adding corals, we're adding things all the time whenever we're doing maintenance, but we're extremely excited to see how this tank is developing. Also, really excited to see how the rockwork's developing too, with the corals that we're adding on, the new fish that we're adding in. We just added in the chocolate tank today. There is a lot of things we can do here with this system that I am really excited about. I was talking about it earlier with the client, talking about it with Gene here from the maintenance team. Normally we don't get to see these tanks from start to finish, but it is really cool to see it from the beginning, right? When we brought in the tank and it was all at the start of it, to now where we're seeing it up and running. It's really cool. It's one of my favorite things. We've not been able to do that here on the channel. So definitely drop a comment down below how you felt about seeing this entire process from start to finish. I'm also curious to hear from you all, what corals and what fish should we be adding in next? Also, at one point, the client wanted to do a saltwater predator tank. Thank goodness they ended up going with a full-on reef, because I am loving the fact that this is a drop-off reef tank, looking really cool with the scape. And I have to say, shout out and kudos to the maintenance team. Once again, I repeat their names all the time, Gene and Deichel. Shout out to those guys. They're killing it every single time they're working with the tank. But if you guys have enjoyed this video from the start to the finish, as we've transferred through quite some time, kind of time traveling as we've done in this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on any future uploads.